From the misty Pacific coast to the rugged Cascade Mountains and beyond to the high desert in the east. Whether you chase black-tailed or mule deer, Roosevelts or Rockies, if you fish for bass or salmon, hunt cougars, bears, turkeys, or ducks, we want to talk about the most overlooked section of the outdoorsman community, true Pacific Northwest hunters and fishermen. You have found the podcast for you. Born in the wettest woods of the lower 48, where we only talk about the endless pursuits of the far western world to inspire you in your next adventure.
There will be many tags in our lives that go unfilled, but if your first objective is to learn and grow, you can find success in every season.
And I stand up and like, oh my God,
Your foot fell off.
it's off. Can't find it.
And ask the big questions about what truly motivates our life in the wild.
I believe that God gave us the ability to do this.
You go from plodding along and not really living to living the full, abundant life that He has for you now.
You are listening to the Oregon First Hunting and Fishing Podcast.
Welcome to the show. We're glad you tuned in. We're recording here in Reedsport, Oregon, or Winchester Bay, Oregon, I guess, at the Salmon Harbor Store and Mercantile. How do you say that word? Mercantile?
Mercantile, yeah, I believe that's it, yeah.
I've never actually said it out loud. I read it a bunch of times, so I was really second-guessing myself.
That's the way it sounds in my head when I read it. So.
Salmon Harbor Store and Mercantile. They've been super generous to let us record here at their back patio, which overlooks a really cool harbor. So if you're in Winchester Bay, you should come down. And we had some really awesome breakfast burritos this morning, and they didn't cost an arm and a leg. So I've been thoroughly impressed so far, but I recommend coming down. We're here with our guest, David Knebel.
Knebel, yeah.
David Knebel Jr.
Like evil, but with a B, evil. Knebel,
Oh,
yeah.
Evil Knebel.
Knebel, yeah.
There you go. We're here, and he runs a, how do I say it, company? Do you call it a company? Yeah.
Soft plastic baits company, yeah.
He runs a company called Little Dave's Baits. And I'm your host, Bryant. I'm joined here by today's co-host, Kyle Duver.
Hello.
Kyle, are you excited to try co-hosting?
I'm a little bit terrified of co-host. I'm really excited to go fishing. I will say that.
Yeah. That's going to be fun. Yeah. Going striper fishing after this because Little Dave here. Does anyone call you Little Dave?
Yeah. Well,
okay.
I can tell you the story behind it if you want.
I would love to hear it.
Most people don't know because it's like some people, probably anybody that's listening to this has met me, however many of you out there are hearing it, but I'm not a very little guy. I'm a big dude, and so that's funny, right? Like little,
yeah.
But also I'm a junior, so growing up I was Little Dave. I'm bigger than my dad now, but I'm still Little Dave. So he's Big Dave, I'm Little Dave, right?
I love that.
So it's kind of like an inside joke, also just a joke,
I was going to say, if you're little, I don't know what that makes me, because...
Right. Yeah.
Well, and this is the first time I met you. I kind of figured it was a Little John situation, but I never realized it was that extent.
Yeah, I'm a big guy.
Tower over me.
Yeah, I am a big dude. I'm 6'6" and I'm not small. I like my food.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for inviting us out here to talk, and man, inviting us to go striper fishing. I'm excited for that. That's going to be fun.
Me too.
Well, in today's episode, we are going to talk about striper fishing. We're going to look into the current wildfire situation and the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife point reinstatement policy, and have a conversation with our guest, Little Dave's Baits.
Woohoo.
So Little Dave is kind of a staple name for soft plastics in the Roseburg area. I don't know, I've known him for a couple years. He's been super awesome with just trying to figure out custom baits and colors for me in the past, and now he's exclusively doing swim baits and open pours and just really artistic kind of baits. Beautiful stuff.
Thank you.
It's true. Didn't have to make anything up.
Yeah.
It's all true.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
Well, I just have a couple of quick announcements real quick. Make sure to follow us wherever you'd like to stay up to date, especially if you want to join us for fishing trips and hunting trips. And, we plan stuff as a club, but I also like to take people hunting. So if you want to get connected and be a part of that, then follow us wherever you want to find us, any kind of social media platform. And Facebook users, join our group at Salem First Hunting and Fishing Club. Our next event, we're going to do a free rifle sighting event on August 18th at 4 p.m. Bows are welcome, of course, because I also will have my bow there. But we're going to have targets at 100, 200, 300, and 500 yards. So it's pretty cool to get the opportunity to shoot out that far. But yeah, if you want to be a part of that, just either reach out via social media or join our Facebook group, Salem First Hunting and Fishing Club. And now it's time for
Icebreakers.
All right, first one, fishing or hunting?
Fishing.
All right.
That was easy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of lazy. Hunting's great. I love eating game meat, I don't like having to pack meat out of canyons.
I am right there with you.
You might want to look into those damage tags then on the farmers' fields.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, get yourself an elk.
The extra lazy hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, fishing though, for sure, for me. Yeah.
All right. So, bass or salmon?
Bass to fish for, salmon to eat.
That's a very fair answer.
Yeah. That's, you know what? That's probably the best answer we've ever gotten to that question.
Yeah. I mean, fishing for bass for me anyways is way more fun, but they're not that tasty. Salmon, more boring, way more tasty.
Well, how do these stripers taste that we're going to go catch?
Nothing's better.
Really?
I mean, that's my opinion, but there's a lot of people that share that opinion. There isn't. As far as whitefish goes, I don't think you're going to find anything better. That's not as easily accessible. I mean, you can catch these guys in the tidal waters on the rivers, so it's not like you're going out offshore to catch halibut and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I don't. Personally, I'd take striper over. I've had a lot of different stuff: swordfish, shark.
Oh, okay.
I'd still probably take striper. It's delicious. Yeah.
What about like comparing it to rockfish or like sea bass and stuff? Is it similar?
It's similar, but it just tastes. I don't know. It's just better. It's kind of meatier, like a little. I don't know how to explain it exactly. Hopefully, you guys will find out today. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
But
we'll see.
Yeah, it's just better in every way. Like pretty much any fish next to striper, and I think I'll take striper at least until I'm sick of it. But for now, that's all I'm really trying to fish for.
That's some high praise right there.
Yeah, man.
All right, you a saltwater guy or a freshwater guy?
Well, I spend more time probably in the brackish water now, in the tidal waters, so salt-ish water. But historically, I've spent more time in the freshwater, probably freshwater fishing.
Got it.
But I'm really into the striper fishing right now, so I've been spending a lot of time out here on the coast. But yeah, mostly freshwater, bass and salmon and steelhead and that kind of stuff that we fish for around here in the rivers,
Yeah. Type of fishing, power or finesse?
Finesse.
Definitely finesse guy?
Well,
no hesitation.
Not for stripers, but if I'm like bass fishing, I'll fish a drop shot or something like that. Finesse craws or whatever. But I'll fish whatever. But
you were so confident in that answer.
Yeah, I've been asked it before.
And folks, this man has had no warning.
No. Well, I always find it funny just to figure out what people's bent is, because there's some guys that they will only do power. If they don't catch anything all day, that's fine. I'm not picking up a drop shot. And then there's other guys that live and die by finesse.
Well, I'm not like a super competitive bass fisherman, so if I go out, I'll probably have like 6 or 7 rods or whatever, and it'll just be me and my grandson and my wife just for fun, but I'll usually have a little bit of everything tied on. But most often than not, I don't know, I'll fish like a wacky rig. Everybody's gonna fish a wacky rig once in a while, but like a drop shot, like a finesse craw on like a football head jig or something like that, that's kind of my favorite. But if they're gonna bite like a topwater, I'll fish topwater or whatever.
I feel like topwater's cheating. If they're gonna bite topwater, I'm not throwing anything else.
Yeah.
All right, last question. This is the really important one.
Okay.
Fish tacos or fried fish?
Fish tacos.
No hesitation. Fish tacos.
Everybody that knows me will tell you that if that fish belongs in a taco.
I don't think I can argue with that either. That's pretty accurate.
I had
Fish
that one
belongs
ready.
in a taco. You know what? That might be another good bumper sticker.
Yeah, you guys, some of the guys, the Nail Brothers. You guys know who those guys are, right? Every time that I see those guys frying up the striper that they caught and not putting on a taco shell, I give them so much crap over it.
Nice. Well, here's a look at the news locally here around Oregon. It's fire season, and we've got some pretty big fires burning out east. One question that a lot of people start to ask as we're getting closer to the archery season opening up is, is ODFW going to give me my money back or give me my points back because I can't get into my unit? And, if the answer there that I found online is that the Department of Fish and Wildlife does not close hunting seasons due to fire danger. And on the other side of that, though, they will rarely reinstate your points if fires prevented you from hunting all season long. So what that means is, let's say you have the general archery tag that runs through the month of September, and when your season starts off, and even starting now, let's say that your unit is burning, and so access is difficult, then they'll take note of that. But then if the last week of season you can go back in there, well, that was your opportunity to hunt that last week. So basically the fire can shorten your season, but ODFW does not close the season. And then on the other side of that, they'll only reinstate your points if you cannot get in there at all during your hunting season. So when they do decide to refund your points, you'll get back all your points plus 1 point, and then you'll get your money back. But like I said, that's pretty rare. And I put a little quote here from the website. Please note that voluntarily deciding not to go hunting is not a reason for preference point reinstatement. But I have heard of people who are injured or sick getting their points back. I don't know if you guys have heard of that before too.
I'm not like a huge hunter. I have some family members that hunt and stuff, though. But yeah, I know that at least from what I've heard, not personal experience, it's pretty hard to get back anything that you paid for license-wise and that kind of stuff. Like nearly impossible. It's got to be some pretty special circumstances, I guess. But again, I don't have any real personal experience. I haven't hunted much since I was a teenager, probably. I prefer fishing mostly. Yeah.
Kyle, have you done much hunting?
You know what? My hunting experience pretty much limited to shooting sage rats in Eastern Oregon, so I'm going to go ahead and bow out of this conversation a little bit.
Well, then we'll move on a little bit there to talk about some of the big fires that we do have. Most of these fires are pretty far out east. Yeah. Like if you look at the North Beulah and South Sumter unit, they've got some major fires burning combined to about 400,000 acres.
Yeah, there's some pretty bad ones.
That's a lot of land. Hepner unit has 3 major fires that have combined with a little under 200,000 acres burning. Fossil unit also has a big fire called Lone Rock at about 136,000 acres. And then Sylvie's unit has the Falls Fire that's at 140,000 acres. I mean, you start adding these up. Yeah. That's a lot of acreage burning.
Yep, it is pretty bad. Like, we're having a bad fire season already, and we're not even into August. We're not even when it really gets bad. So hopefully they can get some of those under control. But even not as far east too. Like some of the stuff that's like directly east of Roseburg is kind of getting, a lot of the little fires are combining into bigger ones, I guess.
Oh, they're starting, because I put a note in here that there's like this huge cluster of small fires that kind of span from Crater Lake up to Dexter. Yeah.
Just east of Roseburg, yeah. But hopefully they're gonna get them. But yeah, like they've been slowly growing, pushing towards each other. It looks like.
And they're saying that a lot of those ones were caused by the lightning storm. But I've been surprised. I don't know how it is in Roseburg, but up in the Mid-Valley, Salem area, the air quality is not bad at all. The smoke's not going this direction.
We had a little bit, like it started to get kind of bad the other day, and then it seemed like it carried out. But eventually, once the wind blows right, it gets down in the valley, and it'll just sit there usually. So we've been lucky so far, but hopefully it stays that way. But usually when we have bad fires, we'll end up like the one we had a few years ago that was really bad. Like the sky was just blacked out. I mean, I live a little ways out of town, but I mean, I walked out one day and my back patio had probably an inch of ash.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Man,
it was that bad.
Was that the 2020 fires?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
I was looking at those just because you see the historical fire data. Yeah. And 2020 and the Cascades, it's like the whole Cascades burnt down. Yeah. Like it was nuts how big those fires were.
Yeah, that's when we lost the fish hatcheries over there and all that territory up on the North Umpqua. And now there's fires up there again in that glide area again up in North Umpqua. And people are just it's still bad up there, and it's kind of devastating to see it happening again, you know?
Yeah. And normally you'd think thered be a bit of a time between fires.
Yeah, I mean, it's farther east this time. It's not quite as close.
Oh, so it's burning the green stuff.
It's still, it's just going to burn up probably to where it burned it all off last time.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So keep an eye on those as you're planning your hunting seasons. A lot of people are worried that their archery elk seasons are ruined, but there is still a lot of territory not burned, and there's still some time before elk season opens. And everyone always says that elk go right back in. As soon as the fire's out, then they're back in there. So, don't give up hope, and don't everyone swarm to the Coast Range.
Yeah. Don't go hunting at the elk viewing area. That's discouraged.
That is looked down upon. Let's get into our conversation with little Dave. Would you rather me say David Knebel?
Little Dave works, whatever.
All right.
Dave.
I'll just leave it at Little Dave then.
Yeah, that's cool.
All right, Dave. Share your favorite hunting or fishing story or outdoor experience.
All right. Well, there's a lot to pick from. Most recently, well, I guess it sticks out in my mind because it's most recent, or maybe because it's my grandson. I don't know. But we had a family camping trip at Loon Lake for his birthday, over his birthday week, and I don't know, it's just the kid's gone from like not really being into outdoors that much, and now he loves fishing.
Oh, nice.
Anyways, it's kind of long story. We're fishing at Loon Lake, and I'm out with my wife, his grandma and him, and I don't know if you guys have been in Loon Lake and fished up there, but if anybody's listening has, you get all the way back into the very, very back corner, and there's this little area where you can't have any motors. It's mostly for like kayakers and stuff to bass fish back in there. Yeah, they have these little sandbars that stop. Anyways, we just you could just see there was just hundreds, maybe thousands of bluegill all in the water back there.
Oh man!
So we just pulled up and parked the boat on one of these little sandbars, and my wife and him hopped out, and they were swimming around with the bluegill, and I just threw like a little hook and a little grub and catching bluegill.
Nice.
But I look over and I see the kid who just turned 11. And he's standing waist deep in the water like this with one of my fishing rods and just pitching this topwater frog into these weeds.
Oh, man, that's cool.
And I don't know, it's just something about it just made me so happy, and there's like just tears kind of coming out, and I don't know. Like me and my wife just kind of looked at each other, and I just feel like I've like influenced his life in a really positive way through the outdoors. Does that make sense? And that hit me really like hard, like in the heart.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
I love that.
That's what pops in my head, I guess, when you ask me that question.
That's a beautiful story, man.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. We already decided we're going to do that every year from now on. So.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
I like it.
It's kind of one of those you had to be there things, but yeah, it's.
No,
beautiful.
I mean I see it in my mind, and I have a young son, and I love to. I mean, he's young. He's only 3, so we'll see as he grows up what he's into and if he sticks with it. But at this point, he loves fishing, and I understand where you're coming from. It's just something about seeing the kids out there fishing, talking about it, wanting to do it. It's just so rewarding.
Yeah, walking in and seeing him instead of playing video games, he's like, he's reading about fishing or watching a fishing video on YouTube and telling me about a knot or, like, will you buy me this bait caster or whatever, that kind of stuff, And,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, thanks for sharing that. Well, let's talk a little bit about your company, Little Dave's Baits.
Sure.
So, how did that all come to be?
What is it? I guess I've been doing it for just about 4 years officially now. A year or two before that, I just started kind of getting back into fishing. I hadn't really been fishing for a while, just for, life reasons, I guess, whatever. And my dad started going smallmouth fishing with me up on the main Umpqua, like Tyee area up there, just beautiful, it's cool to get out. And about the same time, I just sort of randomly came across a guy on YouTube that was making baits,
Okay.
Yeah, Kyle knows who I'm talking about. Anyways, how do I gotta name names or whatever? I don't know if he'd want us to or whatever, but Kyle knows who I'm talking about.
It's all his fault.
He's the big YouTube guy.
Is he someone that you guys know personally?
Yeah, well, I don't know if I know him personally, but
spend enough time watching his videos. I feel like I know him.
And
so he's the bait making
talk to him a little
guru?
bit in some Facebook groups and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean he's from Florida.
Florida. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not somebody we know or whatever.
Got it.
So, but yeah, he's like the guy that. Anyways, don't have to talk about him too much, but Yeah, so we just got the idea of like, well, it'd be really cool to like just kind of make our own stuff. I just wanted something to do with my dad, you know, like a hobby.
Yeah.
So we ordered some cheap like sand cast aluminum molds, which is sort of like where most people get started, right? Or some people like stone molds or silicone hand pours, but we got some sand cast worm molds and just started making our own worms for like wacky rigs for smallmouth.
Huh.
And I just like got hooked on it really quick, and I started making my own stuff. And next thing you know, people are like, "Wow, those are really cool. Where'd you get those?" You know, and I'm just sort of learning off of YouTube and learning as I go. And everybody, where can I buy some of those? And I started making them for people, just for my friends, and they're catching fish with them. And so I just said, screw it. And I think I had like a couple $100. I bought a few cheap molds, some bags, and just started spamming social media. Like this guy here, Kyle was like one of my first customers, like regular customers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But then I was just doing like a small run of like stick baits and like some few custom swim baits. I had like 2 swim bait molds. So I do orders for like 10 swim baits, but I'm pouring them like one at a time.
Oh,
Yeah. So
that takes a lot of time,
It
too.
takes a ton of time. Like most people don't understand. Kyle understands because he I don't if you've ever made any of your own baits or not, especially with hand pours. There's a lot of time in between the actual of just pouring. There's a lot going on. I don't want to get into all the specifics, but it takes a long time. So I spent a lot of time making very little to get started.
Yeah.
No loans, no debt, no anything. Just worked my butt off, and eventually I got a whole bunch. Now I'm pouring like 70, 80 swim baits at a time by hand. So.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
At a time, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And they're moving. You're moving product that quick. And
here at the tackle shop across from the cafe, Salmon Harbor Tackle sells stuff. Waldron's in Roseburg sells my stuff. I do the outdoorsman show in Roseburg every year. I sell a lot of stuff there usually.
That's awesome.
And I still work full time, so it's I call it a part-time thing, but I still do this kind of full-time also. But yeah, it does pretty good. And I'm hoping to maybe pick up another tackle shop or two before next season. Yeah. And I'm actually working on. Well, you guys will see it today. I'm not going to talk a whole bunch about it, and Kyle might have even seen this particular swim bait before. But I'm working on something new for stripers. We're going to try out some of them today.
Oh, I think I might know what it is.
Yeah, you might have seen it on the
secret, top secret.
Well, it's something. It's different. It's not a hand pour. I'm just gonna. This is what I'm looking to do, anyways. And I don't want to get into a lot of details because there's no guarantees I'm gonna actually do it. But I'm testing it right now. But I want to do something that's injection, so I can bring the price down a little bit for some of the people because the hand poured stuff is just really time consuming.
Oh, sure,
and a lot of it's like custom patterns and stuff, so it's expensive. And so injection I can do not quite as fancy as stuff, but put out a lot more. Bring the price point down a little bit, so I'll have both. That's what I'm aiming to do, hopefully, at some point.
So that's what we'll be testing out today, then.
Well, there's one. There's one of them on there. I've got some more in, so we've got like a bunch of the tried and true.
Yeah.
You know, my stuff on the different jig heads and all that, and then the hand pours, and then I've got one just for funsies. But I've got a bunch more we can throw on anytime we want to if we're liking them. So.
All right.
But we're still in the testing phases, so we'll see.
Does that make you excited, Kyle?
I could not be happier to be in a testing phase of new bait.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, on that thought of trying new things, like what are some of the special baits you've made that you're most proud of?
Oh, that's maybe it ended up being called the molten craw, but we were just talking about that, like that triple laminated fire craw that I used to do all the time. Everybody loved that thing, and I could not, but it was a pain to make it.
Oh,
yeah, I had to sell the machinery just so people would stop asking me to make it. I
really?
literally cannot make.
Kyle,
these
did you buy
anymore.
that one from him?
I still have about 6 packs because before he stopped making them, I got some.
I made a bunch for myself too, but I'm almost out, and I'm like, oh, do I order another injector so that I can?
Do you need a pack, Dave? I've saved them.
No, I know a guy. It's cool.
Now you're regretting
I know a
selling.
guy. I can handle it.
That's kind of interesting to me. Like, it was one of your best lures, and you sold a bunch, but you just got tired of making it. It was wearing you out, or what?
It wasn't exactly that. I mean, the doing triple injections is just a lot more setup, and it's just harder. Like,
burning you out.
The more colors you're doing at once. And not just that, too. I was doing so many different lures. Like, I started out doing bass stuff, so it was like stick baits, a few things. Started doing some hand-poured swim baits, little things. And by the time I realized that I had just really gotten in over my head. I was making like 18 different lures. I started making steelhead stuff and salmon and, you know, eggs, and all of a sudden I was working like 130 hours a week or something. You know, I was exhausted. I did that for like 2 years, and
Man.
I had to take a month off and just like figure out what's going on, and I ended up just deciding on I'm going to do swim baits only. So I sold off everything, kept some stuff to make for myself, you know, but sold off the majority of everything else, turned it all into swim bait molds, and then just kind of revamped everything.
Oh.
Just been going from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot happier, a lot more time with the family and stuff.
Oh,
and
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was getting pretty burnt out for a while.
Yeah. Well, that's what you want to avoid, right? Because then you just quit, and then what? You know?
Yeah.
You don't know how to
I
do
got
it
to that
anymore.
point where
I
I was
like
just
hanging out with
exhausted.
doers.
Right. Yeah, I was getting probably like 3 hours of sleep a night, sometimes less, you know, and I was so exhausted, and something had to give, so yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to you during that time frame too, and people have asked me, because I just make a little stuff for myself, and they're like, "Oh, will you sell me some?" I'm like, "No, either I like you enough that you get some,
Right.
but I'm not doing this for a job. I don't want to get burnt out."
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like if you get enough molds, it's not too bad. But like me, I was just doing it pretty much by myself. I mean, the family helps me a little bit, but you know, as far as the majority of the work is me, and yeah, you can get real burnout. Once you get a lot of molds, it's fine. But if you're doing 18 different lures and you're one guy and you don't have $1 million, you're doing huge runs of stuff with 3 or 4 molds, and it takes all day, and then you turn around, you got to do another color, and then you got 4 other lures you got to do the next day, and it's just it's too much. Yeah.
And especially if you're doing the laminates, you have a lot of wasted plastic because you can't reuse the runners.
No, I just use those to make my own baits.
Yeah.
Black and blue, black baits. But yeah, it's just one of those things. But it's worked out really great. So I mean, I've sort of turned into the, I don't know, quote unquote striper guy or whatever, you know, just because I make a lot of patterns that are specifically for stripers, and a lot of the guides around here use them and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So, but that triple pour crawl was like your favorite.
there was the bass guys loved it.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. I sponsored a local tournament in Roseburg one year with there's a guy named Dominic Bradford, runs a company called Outboard Madness. I don't know if you guys know, in Oakland. Good dude. Anyway, works on boat motors. Anyways, we sponsored a tournament together, and I gave out a free pack of those to all the boats to fish with, you know, like a pack of 6 or whatever at the start of the tournament. Every single boat that came in with fish said they caught them on those craws, and it was just I couldn't keep them in stock for a year after that, just locally. Just local guys cleaning me out.
Talk about good advertisement,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but I had to, like I said, something had to give, and I decided to stick with the swim baits, so
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's awesome. So, on like talking about fishing, the thought of making something sounds really cool to me, and like I can't imagine the feeling of like you made this yourself. Like I had one summer, and I'm ashamed to admit it. I had one summer where I tried fly fishing.
Yeah.
And I got a broken drill, a battery drill that my dad had, and I screwed it onto a board, and I used that as my fly hook holding vise.
Okay.
And then like I used sewing string and feathers for my chickens, and I made these flies.
Tied them, yeah.
And then I caught fish with them.
Yeah.
And that feeling was so great of like, oh my, I made these things from just bare hooks. I don't know if there's special hooks flies use. I just use like worm hooks, you know?
Right.
And
don't go around telling everybody you're catching fish off of homemade stuff with chicken feathers.
Yeah.
You're going to put me out of business.
Well, okay, I was catching bluegill,
No,
so
I know,
they'll eat anything. But anyway, so I couldn't imagine how you probably feel, but how much does your fishing drive your bait choice? Like, are you fully informed, like, by your fishing on what colors and baits you're going to make?
Well, that's part of the reason why, because I didn't start out doing striper stuff. I've sort of, like, the first time I even fished for stripers was like a few years ago now. But, you know, I was like I don't know if you call it stereotypical, like, Roseburg quote, you know, whatever, fishermen. Like we're in the middle of the Umpquaws. Why do we need to go anywhere else? There's no reason to go anywhere else, right? So I just fish the rivers all the time. But then
I think us people from Salem and Corvallis and
Similar
surrounding
stuff,
areas can relate to that.
Yeah.
Got the Willie right there.
even when I come down here, I still lean towards the rivers. You know, as part of striper fishing, I like the rivers a lot. And, but yeah, I just recently got into. Oh, now I even forgot what the original question was.
I was just asking, like, how much does your fishing inform?
Oh, right. A lot. Yeah, like when I come down here, that's part of what I'm doing is testing new stuff or patterns or colors, or like we're gonna try a new swim bait today. Not only that, but like I talked about before, the Nail brothers, Tyler Nail and Austin Nail. I sponsored those guys bass fishing when it started when I was just doing bass stuff, but they're big striper fishermen too. So those guys help me out when they're helping me test these swim baits and a couple of the guides out here. But yeah, between the information I get from those guys and just spending a lot of time here fishing, that's everything. Like, well, this worked kind of good, or man, I can try, adding some red to this or do that different, or just little things that I notice they pick up on. But yeah, it's definitely, and being out here using them, that's what it is. Like, I've had one color that just didn't go over very, very well, and I made it without really testing it or thinking about it too much, just kind of thought, man, this is going to look cool, and it just didn't work. And
it's good for catching people.
Right, yeah. And that sort of,
I mean, that's a business plan, right?
Well, I mean, it can be. That wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
At all, but it just didn't work that great. So I've tried to get a lot more hands-on with the testing and like more proactive with it, So
yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you'd feel the same way, but there's one level of great that's catching a fish on something you made.
Yeah.
There's another whole level of awesome when you catch a fish on something you made on a color choice that you put together that you can't buy somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like, I suppose like if you're a hunter, you'd sort of be like the same thing as like, you fashion your own arrow, or like you made your own trap, or you know what I mean.
Load
like
your own
the
rounds.
more you do for yourself, the more it feels like you've done for yourself. If that makes any sense.
I feel like the closest with the amount of variation would either probably be building your own arrows or loading your own duck loads.
Yeah,
because those guys that get really into pouring their own shot and making their own duck loads.
To me, it's just. Like, if you enjoy being self-sufficient, which most people that enjoy the outdoors do, then that's just part of the same thing. Driver. You're doing it for yourself. You know what I mean? You're like, not that we need it to survive, but it's sort of that surviving thing. Like, I can do this to take care of myself if I have to, or whatever.
Yeah.
Feels that same kind of, I don't know, feeling, I guess.
Yeah, we've all got that drive.
Yeah.
So, like, when it comes to thinking of a new color, is it, I mean, there's so many baits out there. Like, how do you even come up with something new?
Well, I mean, it's almost impossible, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure just about anything I could make, there's probably somebody else out there that's made it or something that's close to it. You know what I mean? But I do different like, I don't want to get into too many details, but like I mess around a lot with hand pours. You can do some really interesting stuff with layering and like the way that things look in light or when they're not in the light. I try to do that a lot, like different color shifts or highlights, and just to sort of set myself apart. But mostly I just try to make sure the quality is really good, like it looks good. Like every once in a while you might find one with a random piece of flake in it that's not supposed to be there or something, but I mean, sue me, I'm in a shop with a bunch of fans blowing around or something.
I see what you're saying.
Well, you got a white bait with one random black, we just call that the lucky fish catching flake.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, I just try to keep it like high quality. I pour stuff that I know that works, and I try different stuff all the time. And a lot of guides around here order custom stuff from me when they want to try new colors, and so that gives me information too. And
yeah.
If you look at Winchester Bay Charters.com, Cole Abraham, and another guy that fishes with him, Hogs Hands-On Guide Service, Paul Mertens. They both use my stuff, but if you look on like their Facebook pages and stuff, they have examples of like how they rig up my swim baits and the colors that they're using and stuff like that. So they catch a lot of stripers on my swim baits out here, like way more than I ever could. Yeah. Of course, they're out here all day long and all night long too, fishing.
Well, it is
these
their
guys
full-time job.
Yeah, they work hard, and this is the time of year when all the work's there, right? So they're out there working, and that feels nice to be able to like help them out with that too. Yeah, like good quality stuff that doesn't just fall apart. They can keep plugging away.
That's probably a big aspect of it.
Yeah.
I mean, but it also goes down to the compound you use, right? Like when we had Kyle on, I asked him a bit about the different plastics and compounds that you use.
Oh, there's so many
Kyle's
different.
stick worms, you pour a softer worm, right, Kyle?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll
Most people
generally use
do.
a worm blend just because of that play. Yeah.
Almost everybody you'll find that makes stuff for themselves is gonna usually, well, at least stick baits or bass stuff in general is probably going to be softer than a lot of the stuff you'll find in the store, just because we can turn around and make 20 more of them. We don't have to pay $8 for a 5-pack.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, just for that little bit more action. But
So then when you cast and it flies off your hook, then
you're
can,
like, man, I'll make another
Yeah.
one. You know, it's no big deal.
I've got
Yeah.
2 pounds of these sitting in my garage.
Right.
So
Yeah.
which one of the bass I caught this year was on one of Kyle's things he gave me, and then now I've got 2 handfuls of lures that you made me, so I'm excited to use those. Pretty cool.
I'm excited to get pictures of fish.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Well, I
Heck
mean,
yeah.
you've been with me every time I've bass fished this year, so
I
I can
cannot
show
say
you.
the
I don't need
same.
to send you pictures. Yeah, you definitely hit it more than me.
not to change the subject a little bit, but you bought a worm mold from me like a few years back.
bought
Do you
a
still
couple.
have that?
Oh yeah,
The one with
the ribbon tail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the whatever. That's
sure
cool.
do.
I've been thinking about trying some of those for stripers. That's the thing they do down in
yeah.
California, like northern, central California. I guess they troll these long curly tail worms for striper. Nobody does it up here, but I've been wanting to try it out. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if I try that and it works, I might want to buy that back from you. Is that possible?
You know what?
I'll make you free ones
We'll
forever.
talk. Oh, okay, we can work something out.
Only because it's got the company name in it.
Yeah, it's got your
already.
name on it.
Yeah. All right. Anyways, or I'll buy another one without the name and I'll trade you.
We'll work something
Okay,
out. I
all right.
ain't worried about it.
I don't know if I'm doing that
just
yet or not.
just
though.
charge him royalties.
Yeah. Right.
Nah. I ain't gonna do that to you.
I still have one of those worm molds. I found it the other day. I forgot that I never sold the other one, and then
Those
I
things
started.
are cool.
I know they really are, and I'm kind of glad that I didn't sell the other one because I was talking to a friend of mine who was from California saying they used to fish those for striper. I don't know if they'll work up here or not, but I want to try it.
Can't hurt
You
to
never
try.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean I've spent days out here fishing stuff I know that works without catching anything, so I can fish anything and not catch something. You know.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah.
So it sounds like most of the people that are buying your baits are guides.
A lot of, I mean, I sell a lot to other stuff too. I mean, it's not just the guides, but yeah, here on the coast, especially here at the tackle shop where they have them on the harbor, a lot of the guides have boats, or they launch close to here, come out of Reedsport, or some of the bigger boats, you know, are here in the harbor.
Yeah.
And then they buy a lot of stuff from the tackle shop, and they like my
From
stuff for sure.
That's interesting. I would have thought they'd buy directly from you rather than the tackle shop.
Well, I do that for custom stuff, but everything else I don't. Like I try to keep. Kind of my idea is to like businesses supporting each other, like
Yeah.
right, like not so much like I know that I can come in and I know that they like my stuff, and if I wanted to, I could probably make a little more money selling them directly to these guys and out
Yeah.
here. But I can also come out to this place that I love,
Yeah.
and they support my business, I support
Uh-huh.
their business. You know, I come here and eat food. You know, when they're in town, they come hang whatever. You know, and pick up
Yeah.
stuff for me, and like. I don't know. It's just community is more important, I think, than making a couple extra bucks, if that makes sense.
I think that's a huge thing that people can lose sight of when
Yeah.
they're just grinding, trying to
Yeah.
make money, get big, make money. But I mean, the local tackle shop like
Yeah.
plays a huge role in
And
the
they're
fishing community.
having a hard time.
Yeah.
Like they are. That's part of the reason why the new swim bait thing, I want to offer something that's a little not as expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, like not that I want to turn anybody off to it, but like my hand pours aren't the cheapest swim baits you're ever going to buy, but they're really, really good. But I want to be able to offer a little something more to like the regular guy that's not looking to
Yeah.
go out fishing 5 times a day, every day, all summer. You know, he might go like 3 times. He's going to go to Walmart and buy a pack of whatever
Yep.
he's happy with, right? So
Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest hit against the tackle shops
Yeah.
is like Bimart and Walmart and
Walmart,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
with their big the brands that they've got everything being made in China and sent over here, and you can go
Yep.
buy a pack of swim baits for like $4, you know, and they're stiff as a board, but you know
Uh-huh.
most people don't know, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, after using Kyle's compared to like the cheap
Yeah.
stick worms that, it's like holding a pencil,
Yeah.
like I don't know, it's just so obvious which one would feel more
Well,
real to a bass.
When you're making your own, like especially on a small scale, like you affect the quality as much as you want. You can use whatever materials you want, the colors you want. You know, you can pull all the air bubbles out of it and make it look really nice if you want, whatever. And that's sort of
Yeah.
what I've tried to carry over into doing on a bigger scale. Because most tackle places, once they get any kind of size, like the quality just drops, right?
Yeah.
So trying not to do that.
Speaking of tackle shops, like I see them on the coast or like on the way to the coast. Kind of seems to be like the last remnant of tackle shops. But in the valley, Kyle, do you even know of any?
I mean, the only place that's sportsman's and then fly fishing. I don't know of any any.
There's lots of
tackle
fly shops still. Yeah. But
yeah, it's the big stuff. I mean, and even Sportsman's and Bass Pro and all that are all the same company now. I think, but Bass Pro bought Sportsman's last year or something
really?
like that. Yeah. So even though they're
well,
they
why
still
don't I
operate.
get Cabela's points there then?
Yeah,
Come on, what's going on?
I don't think it's technically like the names are different, but I think it's all under the same Cabela's umbrella.
So the big three now are under the same umbrella.
Don't quote
Talk
me
about
on that,
monopoly.
I'm
I remember
sure
hearing something about that
a
a year ago, though.
I think they bought Sportsman's. Yeah.
I was really
Man.
excited because I was figuring we get more bass tackle and sportsman's.
Yeah,
I
it's
remember
staying the
that.
same.
It didn't quite work out that way, but
No, it did not.
I'm not even very impressed by the Cabela's up in Tualatin is the one closest to where we are. Because there's one in Springfield too, but I don't know.
We're lucky in Roseburg. There's a lot of being on the Umpquaws. There's a lot of fishermen, so we can support some local tackle shops. Like Waldron's gets a lot of support from locals. I sell stuff in there. Like I've got a whole kind of wall in the back of the shop there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Say that again. Where's that?
Waldron's.
Waldron's?
It's in Roseburg. Waldron's Outdoor Sports. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Locally
You get the
owned.
whole little Dave's wall, huh?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah,
not to brag
cool.
or anything, but I'm
I like
kind
it.
of a big deal in a small town.
Hey, I mean, Roseburg's bigger than you think it is.
Yeah. No, it's cool though. I like that. I would like. We need more of that. We need less Walmarts and more Waldrons and Salmon Harbor tackles and that
Absolutely.
kind of stuff.
Yeah, so support your local tackle shop, people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I'm spilled
Buy my
coffee.
stuff, but even if you're not, still go to your local tackle shop, please.
Yeah.
But also buy my stuff.
Yeah. Are there other guys making baits that sell around?
There's a guy in Roseburg, Tom Beck, that makes jigs. They actually have him here too now at Salmon Harbor and at Waldron's. He makes some pretty nice
porous
jig heads. Yeah, jig heads.
you
And
do
does
underspins?
the skirts and all that. You can walk right across the street and find out. I'm not 100% sure.
I always
but
have
I
a
know,
hard time finding
I can
those.
get a hold of him if you want some. I bet you he'd make you some. I don't know if he has the molds for him or not, but
I mean, Kyle, this is a big announcement for him. Just got his journeyman's license.
I did.
oh, nice.
Is that how you say it? Journeyman's license? Yep. So that means he's going to have a little bit more money for fishing gear, right, Kyle?
Yeah, that doesn't mean you're
that
going to have more
shouldn't
money.
be the way
means
that
you're going
is.
to have more fishing gear. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm looking back at the last couple months, and that pattern has already proven true. So
we all know it's going to happen.
yeah.
It just
Nice.
is. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, did you have any more questions for Dave as far as Little Dave's goes?
No, man. I mean, I'm enjoying listening here because again, I've been trying to be a loyal customer to Lil Dave for a long time, and I love his stuff, and I'm stoked just to listen. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate
I mean,
it.
I remember back in the day when I was asking you for custom colors, and man, you were just on it.
Yeah. Well,
I
that's
mean,
when I was hustling, man. I was trying to grow with really like, I didn't have a lot of extra money, and so I was just anything. It didn't matter what it was. Anybody wanted anything, I did it, and I didn't care if I was working until 4 o'clock in the morning. I turned around and started shift at 6. I just did it, and I got the money. And then as soon as I got enough money, I'd buy the next thing I needed, the next piece of equipment, and the next. And then that's just how I did it. Yeah.
But listening to that too, I think that's another reason it's cool what you do with these tackle shops is that protects your time too.
Yeah.
You get the orders
Yeah.
from the stores, and you don't have a list of 40 people that want custom orders on top of that.
Yeah, I take customs when I can do it, and when and if I can't, or if it's going to be a long wait, I let people know. But most people, like I said, a lot of the guides around here, when they want certain stuff that I don't sell in the tackle shops, they know that there might be a wait, but they just hit me up, and I try to, when I can, I try to prioritize stuff for the guides and stuff locally, because I know it's it's part of the local economy, and but sometimes I have other commitments that I have to do first. But I try really, really hard to prioritize for the people that are using them for work.
Little Dave's Baits. Check them out. You got. Well, we'll plug all your stuff at the end.
Okay, cool.
One thing that we always try to cover for our listeners is some applicable tips. And we're getting ready to go striper fishing, so I thought it was a great opportunity to talk about that. I mean, I don't know the first thing about striper fishing. I've never touched a striper.
Gotcha.
I'm aware of them.
I know a little bit more than you do, then.
Okay. So, I mean, one of the things that I'm curious about is they live in brackish water, but
Well, they can live in salt water or fresh water.
okay.
But the ones that we're targeting out here, the ones that are spending a lot of time in the tide waters, like following tides in and out,
Okay.
and where the food's going or whatever. So, but I mean, you can catch them out in the ocean, like bait fishing. People will catch them off of like surf fishing and stuff too sometimes.
Okay, because I've heard of surf fishing.
Yeah.
Got
and
it.
you can catch them in fresh water. They run way up the rivers all the way to where there's no brackish water. So
Really?
they can survive.
Well, you know what?
They're hardy. That's part of the reason why there's so many of them now. Is
Yeah.
they can
And they do
survive
good
in
in
super
warmer
cold
water.
salt water and super warm fresh water. Yeah.
Wow.
They just need a little time to adjust. Yeah.
And they're delicious.
I've
and they're
heard of
delicious,
people
yeah.
catching them all the way up by Eugene, which is
I haven't heard
way
it,
up the
but
Willamette
that's farther
River.
north than I usually make it. So yeah.
Yeah, and there's not like a huge amount of them in the Willamette either,
Yeah,
compared to
I
like
don't know anything about
supposedly
the Willamette.
this is one of the hot spots
Yeah,
for
here.
striper.
Yep. Here, right here, as far as I'm concerned, the coquille's got stripers in it too. Yeah. I don't
Okay.
spend too much time. I'm not super familiar with the coquille, but
Because they stocked them here once a long time ago.
is that how they?
Yeah,
I don't even know how
looked-
they came
I
about.
looked it up before we came down here, and they stocked them here a long time ago, and then they realized that they put the hurt on salmon,
Yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
they stopped stocking them. But now it's this remnant population that is never going to go
boomed.
away.
Well,
you know.
they took the limit off them a few years ago once they realized that, like, oh man, there's thousands of these things. They stripers. It's funny. I was out on a trip with one of the local guides here last summer. Maybe it was the summer before. And they just started spawning, and it's so hard to get them to bite when they spawn. Like, we caught one fish all day, which was cool though.
And
because
when do they spawn?
they were spawning last month,
So
so it was like
a
June,
little
July-ish.
bit, a little bit after.
So they're after largemouth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little later. Well, I think that they, at least the way I understand it, I guess I don't know for sure, but it's not like they just have one. Like, some will start before others,
Yeah.
and it'll take a long period. But the way they spawn is like, you'll be rolling down the rivers. We were seeing them everywhere, but nobody could catch them. Boats everywhere. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you'll just see this huge commotion on top of the water, just boom, 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 and all these tails. The females, I guess, at least this is what I've been explained to. I'm not an expert, so if I'm wrong,
Sure.
feel free to, whatever, email me and chew me out or whatever. But they don't expel the eggs on their own, so they come up and get in the middle of this pile, and the males smack them with their tails to push all the eggs out of them, and then they just do their thing in a big pile. And,
Man.
But it's super cool to watch, man. It's just this huge commotion out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All the birds start coming in to pick up all the eggs out of the water, and it's really, really cool to watch, but it's kind of hard to catch them.
Yeah,
But
at
yeah,
that point, they're
it is
probably
neat.
not worried about food.
Yeah, but they're all through the spawn now, as far as I know, a few weeks ago. So
do they spawn in fresh water only?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's a good question.
Because this seems kind of weird. They like live their whole lives
I would imagine
on the
they probably
border
do.
between salt and fresh, but they're not really anadromous like a salmon, right? They don't like grow up in the salt and then come to the
I think
fresh.
So
Okay.
that's a really, like, there's other guys that know a lot more about that kind of
you
stuff
know
than I
what?
do.
When I'm editing
know that
this,
they make really
I'll
good
drop
tacos.
right here. All right, so here's what I found out about striped bass. Some of this information might be a little different here on the West Coast because a lot of the information about them is from the Atlantic side of the states, but they live up to 30 years. They can get up to 5 feet long, but the males are only sexually mature between ages 2 and 4, and the females are able to reproduce when they're 4 to 8 years old. This is according to NOAA Fisheries, and they are anadromous, meaning that they live in the saltwater mostly, and then they migrate to the freshwater to spawn. And it says that they do that in spring, and then the larvae, as they call it, drift downstream and land in river deltas and areas where they grow up, where they stay for 2 to 4 years before they migrate out to the ocean and get ready to start spawning. Pretty interesting stuff there. Hope you're enjoying the podcast. Thanks for listening.
There you go.
There you go. So
There you go.
That sounds perfect.
Yep.
And then put me in going, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I told you before we started,
Yeah,
right?
God, you
So I
weren't paying
explained that to
attention
you
at
a
all.
while ago.
So you said that striper fishing's big in California, which I've been aware of, but aren't they originally from the East Coast?
As far as I'm aware, they're invasive on the West Coast. They're not supposed to be here. That's what they say. Although at this point, they're just part of the environment. I mean, I suppose something could happen, get rid of them, but they have a lot easier time surviving than some of the other fish we have.
But it's funny because when you read about them on the East Coast, people kind of have a dismal view, like they're kind of having trouble out there.
Yeah.
But then out here, apparently, they're doing
thriving.
really good.
They're thriving.
So,
I think they're kind of like spotted bass out here. Technically, they're invasive, but they're just embraced to a degree.
Yeah, some people do, some people don't. It
Yeah.
depends on your viewpoint. Some people don't like that they eat a lot of the crab. They eat a lot of crab,
That's
juvenile crab. And I mean, that's just what happens. You get that's why they're invasive. They come in and they're doing something to the ecosystem that's not supposed to be happening. But that happens everywhere eventually. I mean, that's just, you wait enough years, eventually something's going to end up somewhere, especially with people helping it along, moving things and putting things where they're not supposed to be.
Like I said, they used to stock them in these rivers, the Smith River. Is there a big difference in gear between stripers and other bass?
Well, at least the way I fish for stripers, like it's just swim baits is all it is. Like, just pitch swim baits on some kind of jig head, whatever your favorite, swim jig or whatever it is. I don't know, your favorite colors, etc. There's lots of different colors that you can fish for them. You just try to find whatever they want to hit at the time. Like, other people fish for them with bait. I don't know. I think just I fish for them with swim baits, maybe because I make swim baits. I kind of have to. But
You're testing out
I
your
think
product.
that's the
It's a
easiest way to
business
catch
trip.
them if you're buzzing around the rivers for them. Like, a lot of people bait fish for them with like anchovies and sardines when they're fishing off the bank, right? You're not going to stand there and pitch a swim bait into the same exact spot all day long, right?
Yeah.
I might.
Well, you might, but your arm's going to hurt by the
And
end.
also,
absolutely.
And also, you're Kyle.
Yeah.
And that's just what you do.
I mean, you might, but most people, if you're bank fishing or whatever, are gonna like bottom fish with some like anchovies or cut
Something
herring or something
Kyle,
like that, right?
when it rains really hard and floods the field behind your house, do you pitch swim jigs into it?
I might have done that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, just at least if you're doing it like, fishing in the rivers, that kind of stuff, where you're moving around a lot, you want something that you can just cast as you're going. Yeah, we fish a lot of swim baits on swim jigs, and it just, it depends on your current you're in and where you're at and all that, as far as what, how heavy of a jig you want to use. Probably 1/2 ounce is about the smallest I use.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so it's the surf guys that really use the bait, though, is what you said.
Yeah, or just even the guys that fish off the bank. Like here on the Smith River, there's a big run that runs right along the highway that's man-made, rocks, and it's pretty popular. People bank fish off of there.
Okay.
They pitch bait out and let it sit on the
For
bottom.
stripers specifically.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about how they fish for them in the surf, but I would assume it's some kind of bait situation.
Is the surf fishing really? I mean, surf perch is really big here. There's a huge surf perch community.
Yeah, and that's just something I haven't done actually. I haven't done much surf fishing. Honestly, I've fished off the jetties or done rock fishing and all that, but the surf fishing is kind of new to me too. So it's something I do want to do.
It seems like for stripers, it's more of an East Coast thing.
Probably, yeah.
Is what it seems like.
Yeah. I've never done surf fishing. Again, it sounds fun, but I don't have any experience with it.
Surf perch is something I've wanted to try for a long time, but it's
maybe
different.
We'll make another trip and try it for surf perch.
Like with stripers, if you're already bass fishing, a lot of stuff will just cross over. Like if you've got like some medium heavy rods, like 7 to 8 foot.
Okay.
Some 3,000 series reels probably, or like I've got some 4,000, but they're probably overkill. But you never know.
Oh, really? Okay. I was thinking we'd need something big. I didn't realize that we, bigger than that. Like
no. It's not like you're catching groupers or anything, but they get big. But I mean,
a Super Duty 300 mag is gonna handle.
Yeah.
I probably could have brought my.
All the stuff we're fishing with today is like all Shimano stuff. The rods are 8 foot, medium heavy Shimano rods, all 4,000 series Shimano saltwater reels. Just spinning reels, like you can fish with bait casters or whatever. I'm just lazy. but
you don't like picking out backlash?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably, if you want to fish with one, you're less lazy than I am, and better with fishing them, then you probably can fish your bait casters just fine. You'll have more options, but spinning reels work fine. But yeah, you can, a lot of stuff you're already going to have for bass can just carry right over. You can use the same jig heads, the same swim baits, the same whatever. But surf fishing, you need like a 14-foot surf rod.
Yeah.
It's like 7 pieces, and you know you got to spend $1,000 that you're not going to ever use anywhere else again.
Yeah,
you don't have to
I've
spend
gone
that much.
a couple
but, you know.
times, and I've used they're actually the ones I use for trolling, you know, so they're not a super long rod, but it's more stout, and I just can't get it out where I need it to go, you know. That's the problem with all these new types of fishing. Whenever you try, you always got to like buy a new rig for it, but what I'm hearing from this is a little bit more basic. A bass fisherman.
If you can fish like jigs, like swim jigs and swim baits for bass, you can throw them for stripers. It's sort of the same thing, just maybe a bigger presentation, maybe a little bit bigger, you know, heavier line, but that's, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sort of similar fishing, yeah.
So it's more of a doable for a, you know, try it out once.
Yeah, if you have the equipment, if you got the boat, like guys run bass boats up and down the river out here all the time. Just, yeah. I mean, just like a lot of guys will just
clean
hit
out the
their
salt,
bass
right?
boats, and then just run up, you know, as you're going home, run up the river a ways, and the first spot you can pull over where it's fresh, just, you know, back in and by the dock and run your motor for a while, wash out all your reels and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, or if like me, like I flush my motor and, you know, and do all that stuff and rinse out the reels, but I make sure when I'm down here I use all the saltwater stuff too, so but I still want to take care of it. But if you're not using saltwater stuff, definitely make sure you're washing it out real good.
Yeah, I was telling Kyle, because I duck hunt in the bays a lot.
Yeah.
And when I get home, I get in the shower and I bring my shotgun with me and I take it apart and I just
you
rinse
can stop
it
there.
all
I don't want to
down.
hear. I don't want to hear any more about you.
Oh, about my shotgun
Your
showers. Yeah, I won't go any further than that. But, so then he told me with line, you're running like 3 different types of line.
Well, yeah, you want sort of. You want your braid like 30-pound braid or bigger, right? Like everything I think we got today's got 30-pound braid on it.
Okay.
And then you're gonna want a mono bumper, which is just to start on your reel. Just gives you extra flex because the mono flexes a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, you don't have to.
How long of a backer on that?
It doesn't matter. I usually just put enough to get it like a couple, just like maybe 2 or 3, you know, lines thick worth, just to protect the reel from that abrasive braid and to give you a little more stretch. Then you run the braid, and then you run a fluoro leader, like 15 to 20-pound fluoro leader. I mean, you can run
between
bigger.
your leader and your braid are you tying a knot or are you putting
just
hardware
tying
there?
a knot.
Okay.
Yeah, no hardware, no nothing like that. Yeah. Yeah, it's not like we're not trolling spinners or doing anything where you have to worry about having. It's real simple setup. Just tie your like Alberto knot or what is it? Blood. I don't remember what all the
blood
knots
knot,
are.
barrel knot,
whatever,
something like that.
Whatever your preferred knot is to tie your fluoro
the
to
one
your braid.
I know the name of one called a polymer knot and
the Palomar knot.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that's a super popular bass fishing knot. I use that a lot for you know, tying on end stuff, jigs and whatever. And
that's your favorite knot, right,
that's
Kyle?
Pretty much the only one I use for the most part.
Yeah, you know what? A lot of people are that way. It's strong. You know, you got 2 contact points on your line on the hook, and it's simple and it's fast. Yeah, it's not a bad knot. It's not the best knot, but it's up there and it's easy and it's quick. It's a good one to tie when you're like fishing and you don't want to take a bunch of time.
Yeah, I'm not going to sit there and snell something when I know I'm going to cut it off because it's not working in 5 minutes.
Right. But it just depends. Some people are, you know, like if you're at home and you have a whole bunch of time, maybe, you know, spend a little more time on a stronger knot. But if you're out on the boat, like a Palomar knot does it every time just about. I never really have them break or anything. So.
Well, what about a lot of people night fish for the stripers?
Something I haven't done. I'm going to get into. I've been looking into putting some lights on my boat and stuff. Yeah.
So what do you know anything about the regulations for night fishing in Oregon?
You can do it. You just have to have the right lights and stuff.
I've talked to people who are like, no, you can't night fish here, but I've never seen anything against it.
No,
like,
that's not true at all. Yeah. You can fish 24 hours a day.
It's just when the good fishing is.
Well, it just depends. Yeah. Like down here, a lot of stuff depends on the tides, you know, so sometimes the tides are in the right time.
I just saw the Nails said they were going to be spending all night fishing for striper just a couple days ago.
Yeah,
I thought.
There's been a lot of night fishing. Sometimes the bite's better at night when it's hot. I just don't get a chance to come out at night a lot, you know. Like those guys also work in the morning, but they're 20 years younger than me, so
that makes a difference.
If I stay up all night and go fishing and go home and take a shower and go to work, like I'm gonna feel like I have a hangover for 3 days just from not sleeping. You know what I mean? So, but I do want to get out and do some night fishing, but I can't, you know, go work all day, come night fish, go work all day, come night fish, drive 4 hours, you know, round trip to do it. I'm not dogging on those guys at all. They're hardcore, man. They are
beasts.
dedicated to their craft for sure.
The nighttime fishing is the same like baits and stuff as the daytime fishing.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can fish for them with other stuff too. I'm saying other types of swim baits, glide baits, and stuff like that. But no, you can only fish for them with soft plastics.
Yeah, from Little Dave.
They have to be
from Little
licensed
Dave's,
through,
It's the
licensed
only
through me.
place.
The only ones. But yeah, it's more or less the same as far as I know. Like again, like I said, there's guides and dudes down here that know a lot more than I do, you know.
Yeah.
But they've been doing it. Like some of those guys I mentioned been doing it their whole lives. Like Cole and Paul and those guys grew up. It's a family thing. Like their family's chartered and they've been doing it their whole lives. So they should know more than me. If they didn't, there'd be problems. You know? Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's good. Yeah, and then the technique as far as like looking at water, you're just looking for sloughs, eddies,
Just sort of anything.
structure.
I don't even know if structure necessarily, but again, like I said, I don't know everything there is to know about stripers. You just got to find them. I mean, honestly, and that I don't want to give away too, what I'm saying. Like, a lot of the guys down here depend on knowing what they know. They've spent a lot of time to learn that stuff, but down here, at least, the way that we fish from here in the tidewaters, you got to be ready to cover water to find them. Let's put it that way. You're not ever gonna find them in the exact conditions. Some days they'll be somewhere else. Other days they might at night might be different. So if you got sonar and you can cover a lot of water, that's the best way to do it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. That's probably what we'll be doing today. Unless unless the first spot I take you guys to, they're just in there, we'll be covering a lot of water most likely.
I'm okay with either one of those options.
Yeah.
Well, maybe both.
Yeah.
We don't know.
And that's what I was telling you on the text. Like, it's so beautiful out here too, and just I love being in tidal areas and on the rivers.
We're not really going to get up on the north fork of the Smith, like way up there, but oh god, it's beautiful up there, man. I'm not that anything's not beautiful out here, but it's like it almost feels untouched up there. It's just
special.
Like cattle fields, and it's it's beautiful,
Yeah. Well, either way, we're gonna either see some beautiful sights and have fun on the boat, or we're gonna get in some fish. Who knows?
I mean, let's be honest.
Hopefully both.
Yeah.
Even where we've been so far, we haven't even left the dock, and I already feel like it's been a good day.
Yeah, it's pretty cool here. Yeah. You guys
Great
probably
area.
tell why I make the trip over here so often, huh?
Yeah. Do you have any more striper tips, or Kyle? Do you have any more striper questions before we wrap this up?
I'm not going to give away too much on that.
Oh, okay.
Just hit up the guides here.
Yeah.
That go out and watch them. And they'll show you exactly what to do.
Sweet.
That's the best tip I could give you, honestly.
Yeah.
You'll learn a lot more from watching those guys than learning from me and having to relearn how to do it the right way.
Awesome. Well, Dave, one thing that we always ask our guests, it's the way that we wrap up the show every time, is exploring your spiritual connection to your life in the outdoors.
See, that one's kind of tough. Like I'm not a real religious person, but I guess I'd consider myself spiritual. Like I definitely feel connected to the outdoors. Like I grew up in a little town called Camas Valley, which you may or may not know. Not even a stoplight. Like if you blink, you miss it kind of town. There's one store, one little cafe, one school for all the grades. Like some of the grades are combined into one class. Like this little town. And everything was outdoors, and so the inside was like where we went to sleep and ate. That was it, right? So it was always we were in the water, we were doing something, we were climbing trees, And I grew up I was lucky. Our family had 100+ acres of timberland out in Camas Valley, and that my grandpa had taken his cat and made bike trails for us. And just everything I did I was getting wet or getting dirty or just in the outdoors, And I guess I've just always been attached to it.
Yeah.
But it's not just like what I enjoy. It's like a family thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It just makes me feel connected to like the people that aren't here anymore. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes any sense at all. Like
it does.
The ones that the information that I know and the things I learned from them, now I get to use and I get to pass that on. And it's just that to me, that's kind of spiritual, if that makes sense.
And so then you see that now in your new grandson.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. God, it blows my mind. That kid. Yeah. He's fantastic. But yeah, that kind of thing. I mean, it's important. And we lose a lot of that now too. Like a lot of the being outdoors and the understanding how to live outdoors. And, you don't even have just an appreciation for it even. Like a lot of people don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
I think it's something we got to hold on to while we have it, anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, at some point, it's like a part of your DNA.
Yeah, 100%.
Your identity.
I feel, and I don't want, if my wife, don't take this the wrong way, please, but sometimes I feel like I'm more at home here than I am at home. Does that make sense? Just like this is where my environment, that's like where I should be.
You're a creature of the earth. Yeah.
Right. And again, I love you, Jackie. That wasn't personal. Please don't take it personal.
No, I completely agree with you. Like, there's a lot of places that I feel fulfilled and comfortable, and there's a lot of people that I love, but there's nothing like being on the water and just being in that peaceful spot, being in that calm. It's where I feel most purposeful, most
like
alive, I would think.
I'm that kind of person, like with the mind that's like constantly going, right? Like I'm always listening to music or something to kind of drown it out. I've always got ideas or random stuff, but like as soon as I hear water and seagulls, it's just nothing. I just feel at home, calm. You know? So yeah.
And there's something about it for me, like being on the water specifically, even if you're just on a river, where that river is powerful. It's like strong coursing. I mean, sure, we make dams, but in all reality, there's like no way for you to stop the power of that river from flowing. Or when I am on the coast and I look at the ocean out over the water, and it's just unfathomable. How do you say that word? Unfathomably huge.
Yeah.
And it really, for me, it really humbles me. It makes me feel small, but it makes me aware of this huge, bigger picture of something that I'm a part of.
Last time I was out far on the ocean, we took a rock fishing trip, like with the whole family, just charter, like I paid for everybody to go, and we're out and it's foggy and we're like out pretty far offshore, and you're just lost, like the rest of the world doesn't even exist. And also a funny story about that I'll just tell because it's whatever, but I've never gotten seasick before, but we got out there and the waves were really bad and got in that fog, and it got in my own head, like, where is the rest of the world? Where is the land? And I puked for like 2 hours. So it was awful. Yeah, I told my wife I would tell that story, so there you go.
Thank you.
I love you.
I did the same thing once. I went out on a salmon charter, and I didn't take Dramamine because I was really prideful and thought, oh, no, I don't need that stuff. I'm on the boat all the time.
I'm tougher than the
ocean.
ocean.
And then I get out there and, an hour into it, I'm just sick. And then I finally, made myself throw up.
Yeah,
and then as soon as I did, I was better.
Yeah.
And I threw up and everyone on the boat cheered.
And that was it.
And I was like, yeah, now I can fish.
I was the same way. We brought Dramamine and I was like, I don't need that. I never needed that.
Yep.
Right? And then as soon as it started coming on, I could feel it. I'm like, I better take those. And it was too late.
Too late. Yeah, I did the same thing.
Yeah, no.
I think it's the folly of it has to be pride, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that's another way that being the life in the outdoors really humbles you and makes you aware of your abilities.
It does,
and
100%.
Like, I think that's probably one of the biggest words to use to describe it, is it humbles you.
One thing I do too, especially when we're on the water, is like whenever I tell one of the kids, like, you shouldn't do that, that's not safe or whatever, I try to remember, like, I should take my own advice, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Like, if it's not safe for them, it's probably not safe for me either, right? We should all think that way a little more, I think, probably, but yeah.
All right, well, Little Dave's Baits.
Yeah, that's
Plug
me.
your stuff. I want to know where we can buy it.
Okay.
And where we can follow you, and what kind of other stuff you want us to support.
Gotcha. As far as tackle shops right now, it's Waldron's Outdoor Sports in Roseburg, Salmon Harbor Tackle and Charter Service here in Winchester Bay on the coast in Oregon. My social medias, it's at Little Dave's Baits, either on Instagram or Facebook. You can get a hold of me there. littledave'sbaits@gmail.com. I answer emails there. And as far as things to support, just at your local tackle shops, anything, your guides. Like, if you guys want to learn, I know you can go online and you can probably learn a lot, but spend a couple $100, support somebody and learn from somebody that knows what they're doing, that does it for a living. You know what I mean? That's honestly, the best way to learn is from somebody that knows what they're doing,
Yeah.
But your local shops, your guides, if you're into fishing, supporting those things supports the whole industry and supports your community. So
Yeah.
definitely try to put your money in there if you can.
And I'll add on to that too. Like we've been talking about striper, we've been talking about some of your offshore stuff, but for the bass guys too, I mean, don't sleep on this guy. He's got 5-inch rainbow trout pattern swim baits that if you're in a reservoir,
Yeah.
those things will destroy some big old largemouth.
Yeah, I got do them in 6-inch too, and I've got 6-inch line throughs now that I'm only selling at Waldron's because I've only got a few molds. It's kind of like a small batch deal, but I'll do customs too. So get a hold of me. They're good line throughs. You're not gonna not be disappointed.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the conversation.
Absolutely,
For
thanks guys.
your wisdom and insight.
Well, I don't know
And
about that.
let's go catch some fish. How does
Let's
that
do
sound?
it. Yeah, hell yeah.
All right,
Tacos.
signing out. David Knebel Jr.,
That's me.
Bryant Ashton, me, and Kyle Duver.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Awesome guys. Thank you very much. Where everything's at.